Hey, what's up, sports fans? Welcome to the Sports Opinions podcast. This is episode number 14. I'm your host, as always. Well, not as always, I wasn't here last week, but I'm Alex Cuesta. Find me on Twitter at @AQuestaNBN. And of course, find the Sports Opinions Twitter at SportsOpinion30. I really want to give a shout out to both Kyle Doctor and Matt Santos. They filled in for me last week. They did a really fun, a little rough sounding because it was their first time using Audacity and trying to get a podcast up this way. But they did a fun podcast on the worst fan bases for major sports, all the major sports, the top 3. If you really feel like being offended and you think you're in that fan base, go give it a listen. And if you really hate what they say or developed a hatred for them, go find them on Twitter. K-Doc is over at Braves Mulder, and Matt is over at M_Santos7. But today we also have a very special podcast on the way. I am with my good buddy, one of my athletes that used to coach back at Marist College, Mr. Josh Siegel. What's up, Josh?
Nothing much, just hanging out on a wonderful Sunday night. A little cold out today, but I'm excited about basketball. That should warm our spirits.
Absolutely, it definitely should. Now, Josh, where can the people find you?
I am at Josh Siegel on Twitter and Josh Siegel 8 on the Instagram. Not the most active guy out there, but I have a good tweet every other week, and maybe once a month I'll post an Instagram of my dog or something like that doesn't exist and something like that. Exciting stuff going on, but Twitter and social media.
So he's obviously a very social media savvy man, if people can't tell. But today
it's kind of my job, which is sad. But yeah, it's not super active in my personal one, but yeah.
So today is a big day, and it's part of the reason why this is such a special podcast. It's Selection Sunday for NCAA basketball, which means is one of the biggest days in sports. It's one of the biggest days to start gambling in sports if you're a gambler. We're not going to get into any of that, but we are going to talk about the selections. We're going to talk about each region. We're going to try and touch on each team, even though reality is out of the 68, most of you don't matter. But we're going to really get down to it. Good perspective here. I'm a Northeastern boy. Josh is more of a Southern boy, more of an SEC, Southern ACC fan type of stuff. So
Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, a little bit everywhere, but you'll have a nice mix of perspective from, the good Northeast side of it, the fun South side of it. So we're going to have some fun. I always poke fun at Josh for being from the South, but he came up for a Northeast education, so we can give him something, right, Josh?
Well, one of us graduated early, one of us took an extra year, so I think I'm not going to say who did what, but I think the education speaks for itself.
Exactly. One of us decided to leave a really fun school early for God knows what reason, and the other one decided to stay and get the most out of his education.
There we go. Do you want to frame it like that?
So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start off with the South region. We're going to do this a little different because a lot of people like to start from the top to the bottom, the 1 to the 16. I feel like that the insignificant ones need to get out of the way first. So we're going to start from 16 up. And the reason why I say insignificant, because it's funny, a lot of the teams that won their conference tournaments end up near the bottom. Because for the most part, these teams wouldn't even be a thought if it wasn't for these automatic bids in the conference tournaments. So we're going to start off right here. Well, I'll rattle off a few teams. I'll probably go maybe 4 at a time, and then I'll see if Josh has anything to say about any of these schools. South region, we're going to start off with 16 through 13. 16 is UMBC, 15 Georgia State, 14 Wright State, 13 Buffalo. Out of those teams, the only team that I think plays a decent brand of basketball, well, Buffalo and Wright State both play decent, but I don't think either of them are going to have a shot. Josh, you have anything important or positive to say about any of those 4 schools?
Is Hurley still at Buffalo?
I don't think so.
Then they have no shot. I think that who are they playing? Buffalo has Arizona. Yeah, Arizona has probably the most talented team in the tournament, top to bottom, off paper. I don't see them doing anything. And they're mad about the sanctions. I think Buffalo's doubly screwed. Georgia State's a football school. Don't even know what conference they're in. Wright State, thought you were in West Virginia. Apparently you're in Ohio. Kind of like the logo. Not a big fan of the school. I don't even know what's going on there. UMBC, they beat Vermont.
But they're playing Virginia.
Honestly,
they're going to play Virginia in the first round.
Yeah, that's just not happening. Baltimore's got some talent, but they didn't get any of it, so I don't think Virginia's going to have any troubles with them.
All right, so we're going to move right along. And, and it's sad because Buffalo, they represent the great state of New York. New York isn't, honestly, the best in terms of basketball, which is kind of sad because we have a Mecca sitting right in the city. But, I really don't see any of them making a dent because the top four in this bracket are pretty strong. We're going to move on to 12 through 9. Davidson, Loyola Chicago, Texas, and Kansas State. Out of these four, kind of surprised that Texas was as low as it was. I didn't think they had a great year, but I thought that they, had enough talent to move them up. I think Davidson's a dangerous school. I think they could play dark horse for a few rounds, but none of these schools scare me. You got anything fun to say about any of these schools?
If anything, I think Davidson, just because Kentucky's a really, 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 really young team. I know it's the case with Kentucky every year, but this year especially, it just seems like they've been super inconsistent. So they're a team to definitely watch out for. I've heard Loyola Chicago is I've had rumblings of that upset kind of team too, but I think Miami's a pretty solid team, and Jim Larinaga is a tournament wizard, of course. Texas, I'm all in on Mo Bamba. I think they are a little ranked a little low too. He's been kind of hurt. I think maybe he wasn't playing. He didn't start the other day, which is kind of curious. But nothing really on Kansas State. They've been good in the past. I mean, they had good tradition, but they haven't been able to beat Kansas. They usually upset them once a season, so nothing really on them either.
All right, so we're really now we start to get to the point of the brackets. 8 through 1 are kind of like the players in each bracket, and there's kind of the teams in there that you're trying to figure out how the hell they got ranked so high. So we're gonna go number 8 Creighton, 7 Nevada, 6 Miami, 5 Kentucky. Again, like Josh said, Kentucky's young. I'm actually pretty surprised they got to where they got. I think the conference championship definitely helped their rise, but again, they're young. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? And I also think Creighton got there at the number 8 mostly because of their past few years, how well they played. They're a team that I think, we don't know much about K-State, but Creighton I think is vulnerable. I think they can lose to a K-State. So out of those, Kentucky, I think, again, the conference championship helped them, but I also think that they got there again off their legacy. If they're any other school, I think they're sitting at maybe an 11 or something like that because they didn't have the normal Kentucky season. How about you? What are you thinking?
Well, I don't think the SEC is as strong as it's been in past years either. Their biggest competition, especially in the tournament, seemed like it was going to be Tennessee or Georgia. But then again, Alabama did come on strong late, and they kind of handled them pretty well. There's just not a lot of SEC schools that impressed you this year, so it's not surprising that the team with the most talent, Kentucky, did win. But this is obviously a bigger tournament with more breadth and depth and all those fancy words. So I'm not too high on Kentucky going too deep. Miami, I'm all in on Jim Larinaga. He was at Mason, which is kind of the Northern Virginia thing, which is where I'm from, and he is kind of a crook, a bad guy, one might say, but that's what gets the good players, and so I think Miami might do something here. I know nothing about Nevada. Creighton, they're good Midwestern school. They have the McDermott's the coach there still, I believe. So he could do something in the tournament, but that 8-9 matchup is always hard to predict.
And I think Miami, they definitely get the benefit of going 11-7 in a difficult ACC. 22-9 overall. They played well at home. They finished 4th overall in the ACC, which is they finished right ahead of UNC. But again, I don't know if they have the horses to really compete. I think they're another team that's pretty high. They get the benefit of playing in the ACC, and they're a team. They could play well. They could fold. We really don't know exactly what they're going to do in the tournament. Now, up to the big dogs, or should be the big dogs, but I already have a problem with 2 of these teams. Number 4, Arizona. Number 3, Tennessee. Number 2, Cincinnati. Number 1, Virginia. Virginia's undisputed. They've been playing the best basketball in the country. I think they have a really good shot to go all the way. Arizona, I think being at 4 is kind of ridiculous. You're telling me that there's, what is that? 3, 2, 1. That's by 12 teams better than Arizona. That to me I find to be absolutely ridiculous for them ranking them 4. I think that's a really, I don't think it puts them in the worst position, but in terms of the selection committee, I don't know what the hell they're trying to select.
I think it makes. I think in the totality of their schedule, if you look at them top to bottom and how they started the season, that if you were to say at the beginning of the year when they lost all those games that, if Arizona does make the tournament, which was kind of evident mid-season when they were catching their stride, if they were to make the tournament based on their entire resume, I would probably put them in that 3-4 range too. Based on talent, they're a 1 or a 2 seed, but just if you look at the resume, I kind of agree. Like the rest of the teams in this South region are like Virginia. If I was Virginia, I'd be pissed that you have them and Cincinnati. Like that's a tough region, especially with Arizona sitting at 4. So
yeah, but you really could argue Tennessee coming out of the SEC should be a higher seed than Arizona.
Yeah, that I don't agree with, but
I know they won 6.
Just taking their whole schedule.
They won 6 in a row. I'll give Tennessee that. They're coming in hot. But, like you said, the SEC is not half as strong as they were in the past. So, I'm a little
strong as the Pac-12 either.
I'm a little bit of a homer because I am an Arizona basketball fan when it comes to that. But I also look, DeAndre Ayton has probably been the best player in the country over the past 2 weeks, especially in the tournaments.
He's the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, and it's, in terms of especially, he's going to be a number 1 pick in a draft in an NBA where a back-to-the-basket center is a dinosaur, but he's still going to be the number 1 pick because of his ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. He's way too athletic. He just does everything you want from a modern big man.
And so you like Cincy from the AAC? You think that they really, the AAC, they're it's a good conference. I don't think they're the deepest conference on the planet. You think that they deserve a 2 seed this year?
I freaking love Cincinnati. I watched them play the other day. I've been watching them play all year. And if I were to coach and recruit a basketball team, I would coach and recruit them like Mick Cronin coaches and recruits Cincinnati. Just like give me every athlete from 6'4" to 6'8". You don't need a center. You don't really need a big man. You don't need a traditional big. Just give me 5 athletes that can play defense and hustle, and grind the other team, make them press the whole game. Offensively, there's a lot to be desired, but they have one of the best defenses up there with Virginia's in this tournament, and so I fully agree with them being a 2 seed. I'm really high on Cincinnati. I think they're going to shock a lot of people this tournament. Just the way they bully people, and that's a great style of play, especially at tournament time when the bright lights are on, and you got to rely on your athleticism instead of the chance that your jump shot might not fall. These defensive teams seem to step up, and Cincinnati definitely looks like that.
So you got Josh is saying go Bearcats. Do you think they can make a run at the title?
I'm all in on the Bearcats.
So you're saying
that might be just like the boring white guy in me that loves defense. I think the Bearcats are going to shock a lot of people.
So Final Four?
I don't know. They're in a really tough region, especially with Arizona and Virginia. I think Virginia is kind of the carbon copy with a little bit more offensive talent. So it's going to be hard for me to pit them against beating a Virginia. And I don't know if they have the offensive firepower if Arizona gets hot.
I'd say Virginia's probably more talented overall. Like, I feel like if you're looking at the talent pool, even a team like Tennessee, because they're a traditional power, you see the 3 teams surrounding them in the top 4 with Arizona, with Virginia, with Tennessee. They just have more, I think, pure talent. Where a Cincinnati's playing off pure balls and chips on their shoulders because they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, but like I said before, it's tournament time, and you see the teams with the experience and the balls and the effort. We're going to play defense in your face. They're the teams that seem to upset the Kentuckys who have talent and slip up for like Duke the other year with Mercer. Like it's an unpredictable kind of pick in these things, and I just like the teams that can play defense and get it in your face. And shots don't fall sometimes, but defense always seems to be there. So that's why I'm pretty high on them. It wouldn't surprise me if they made an Elite 8 run, but it's going to be tough with UVA in their bracket, especially with Arizona as well.
So throwing this at you, who's the dark horse coming out of this conference? at this region?
Out of this region, if you really, really, really wanted to say who's the team that's Cinderella, I'd say Davidson. Just because, I mean, I like them against Kentucky just because Kentucky's super young. And, never know. If they beat Kentucky, they would play. Let's see. They would play either Arizona or Buffalo. That might be a problem, but, they could definitely upset Kentucky. Other than that, like we said, the back half of this bracket doesn't look too strong. Maybe besides Texas, but 10's not too far down there. So probably Davidson if anyone's going to Cinderella it out of here. But it's going to be tough, especially with Arizona, Virginia, Cincinnati, Kentucky even. They're talented.
So are you seeing out of this bracket, there's always the vaunted, people love to try and see if there's a 16-1, 15-2 upset. Do you see Georgia State beating Cincinnati, UMBC beating Virginia?
UMBC I don't think has a shot. If I had to say, maybe if Georgia State can get hot from outside, kind of like Memphis was yesterday against Cincinnati, maybe they'd have a shot to beat.
Listen to Josh. Listen to Josh. So high on Cincinnati not even 3 minutes ago, and now he's saying they could get beaten in the first round.
If you make the shots, but it's tourney time, baby. I don't. So if you really wanted to say like you're gonna bet the house on if a 15-2 upset happens, I would not say it's gonna be Cincinnati, Georgia State.
All right, so we're going to write off 13 through 16 here. Buffalo, Wright State, Georgia State, UMBC. You're kind of useless in our conversation here. So,
yeah, unfortunately. Baltimore, great city, though.
But I mean, is it really a great city?
Yeah, that's a good point. The Inner Harbor's nice. Hopkins is a great medical institution.
They got great athletes.
Huh?
Great athletes.
Great athletes. Google Akil Carr for those at home. They called him the Crime Stopper because he was a high school guy there. Every time he'd play, he's like 5'5". Every time he'd play, everyone would go see his games. There'd be no crimes in the street. It was kind of a cool nickname. Name me a cooler nickname than the Crime Stopper.
We need more Crime Stoppers.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a few.
Crime Stopper.
We have a few.
Josie Cuesta might be Crime Stopper number 2.
Yeah, and speaking of Josie Cuesta, if anyone hears a crying baby, I'm not at a NICU or I'm not in a hospital. I just had my child last Monday. So that's the reason why K-Doc and Santos filled in, because my daughter Josephine Elizabeth Cuesta was born. So,
and he's keeping it.
And I'm keeping it. My wife's a good person, so she's going to be able to right this ship. As for me, she's going to make sure I can't do a lot of negative on this child. So Not yet. So
you gotta give her a buffer. Give her like a buffer 18 years and then give her first cigarette and
oh, Jesus.
Have her on her way.
Jesus, Josh. Cigarettes. They're gross. You got to pull the Oda Beckham and you got to be having a full-on blunt in a video. That's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, that was smooth. That was real smooth. Like, what are they thinking? Like, oh, let me put this on, what was it, on Instagram story or something like that?
I don't think it was him. I think it was like, it's another situation where you find that these people are keeping inner circles that they can't trust. Like, you're with a multi-million-dollar like guy, one of the most talented guys in the league, but a guy that's had some problems in terms of image, and this is what you're gonna put on the internet.
Yeah,
like
he's had more than some problems with his image. I think the NFL is down. He's not the most entertaining player in the NFL,
but if you look at it in reality, like he's done nothing wrong. Like he's been a little bit of a baby on the field, but he's done nothing off the field. This is his first off the field thing that we can talk about with Odell Beckham.
Yeah, that's true, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find a more dramatic on the field guy in the last 10 years besides maybe. Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, he's number 3. Beckham is he's such a crybaby.
He really is. But we're gonna move on from NFL crybabies back to the hardcore crybabies, basketball players. So, so we're gonna move right over to the East region, where again, start from the bottom to the top. We're gonna start with, and this is one thing that pisses me off. I'm looking at this region. There are 2 play-in games. I never understand why the hell they have 2 play-in games in one region. Why wouldn't they just split all 4 play-in games into 4 different regions? It makes no sense to me, and I think this screws up brackets everywhere.
And why is this an 11 seed playing game?
They do that all the time. There should be no.
That doesn't make. Why the 11 such an arbitrary? Like, why not just make it all the 16 seeds?
Well, if you look at it in the Midwest, they have 11 seeds too. The playing games an 11 seed, and I get it. St. Bonnie's is actually a good team. The fact that they're one of the last 4 in is insane. UCLA, they've been down.
Win their conference, did they?
Huh?
They didn't win their conference tournament. I think that was why.
Who? St. Bonnie?
I'm pretty sure they lost it, right?
They did, but if you look at the resume, I want to pull up their schedule right now. Like they are just a good basketball team. Like it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't argue that. It's just like if a team from the A10 doesn't win their conference, it's going to be really hard unless they're like a VCE that has tournament history to put them in just based on resume. Yeah.
I mean, they lost to Davidson. Davidson's a good team, but let's look. They in their conference tournament. They beat Maryland by 2 points early this year. They beat Siena, which is another good mid-major school. Siena had a down year, but it's a good mid-major school. They beat Buffalo.
They play in a nobody conference.
They beat Buffalo. They beat another tournament team. They beat Northeastern. They beat Vermont. They beat Syracuse. They beat a lot of good teams. They lost to good teams. They lost to Rhode Island. A big deal, But it's like it's kind of ridiculous. And no, they don't play in a no-name conference. They play in
I would say the MAC was no name with Siena.
Well, hey, listen, the MAC was.
It's a jab at ourselves.
They've traditionally been one of the better mid-majors. We're going to talk a little bit more about the MAC when we get to them. But no, St. Bonaventure plays in the A10. The A10 has put out some of the better teams in the tournament. So it's like I think that's really disrespectful what the selection crew did to St. Bonnie. But we'll get back to talking. We'll get to them when we get to them. Like we said, they're in the 11 seed playing game, which is absolutely stupid. 16 seed playing game, LIU Brooklyn, Radford. I was watching ESPN, and I think it's Marty Lyons. He came from, Marty Smith. Marty Smith. He was at the Radford games. He's a Radford alum. And if anyone didn't see, they made the tournament on the last second heave. And, it's only, you see it every year in tournament time, and it never gets old in the conference tournaments. We'll see them during the actual tournament, the last second heaves for wins. Hell, we almost had an NCAA championship decided when Gordon Hayward almost beat Duke on that last second heave for Butler.
I'm all in on Radford. Biggest party school in Virginia, kind of in the middle of nowhere. they like to get after it. LIU Brooklyn's pretty solid though.
LIU Brooklyn. Listen, the one thing about LIU Brooklyn that I know, like I'm not gonna lie and say I know much about either of these teams. I know that LIU Brooklyn has a lot of fast people in track, and they have some of the best sprinters in the nation for this small ass school. But we can be all in all we want. Are they a factor?
No, but in high school, when I was in high school, I wasn't very good at basketball on the JV team. But our varsity team played a kid from Fluvanna High School who was committed to Radford, had a pretty good career, but his name was Yaya, and he could yam it. His Christian name was Yaya, and I think that alone gives Radford the edge. He's not on the team anymore, but a guy named Yaya went to Radford. So in the contested, the hot debate of LIU Brooklyn versus Radford, I'd have to say Radford.
All right, that's fine. Neither of them are going to matter, but that's cool.
Also true. You never know. I mean, Villanova's looking kind of weak now.
Oh, yeah. Villanova is going to lose to one of them. But Cal State Fullerton, they're, I'd be lying if I told you I knew a lot about Cal State Fullerton. I know that they're a branch off of California State that kind of has their own Division I team for some reason, but that's about it.
Fullerton. Where's Fullerton?
I don't know. I had a really good friend with the last name Fullerton. Shout out Andrew Fullerton. What up, buddy? He's a big Eagles fan. Congrats on your Eagles.
Yeah, good for him. Fullerton is it's near Anaheim. It's kind of a nice city. The Angels there, Mike Trout's there.
Yeah, Mike Trout, Jersey. Nice. What up? Best player in baseball from Jersey.
Second best behind Bryce Harper. We're not going to get into that.
Stop. Bryce Harper's hair is nice. That's the best part about him.
He's got a great beard too. Kind of want to emulate that.
Yeah, he has a solid beard. He's not next to Harden, but he has a good beard.
Who is next to Harden now?
Nick Mangold had a great beard at some point.
He did have a great beard.
And it was just like a straight man. Like that was your typical Paul Bunyan gonna go chop down a tree with my bare hands beard.
And DeAndre Levy from the Lions. His beard came out beneath his face mask, like really, really hardcore. So.
There have been some solid beards. Now, I think that's one of the things that's probably going to hold back Cal State Fullerton. I can't imagine any other guys has solid beards. Like, they're, dudes from Cali, they might have some hipster facial hair beards. I don't think so.
I mean,
I'm not even going to Google their roster.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm doing.
I'm not. I'd rather not.
Anyway.
Before Josh can finish Googling their roster, we're going to move on to 14, to a team that I think actually can do some damage because they have the pedigree. Stephen F. Austin. They're a team that is always around in the tournament, and they're one of those teams that never gets the respect they deserve from the selection committee, and they sit at these low ranks, and they go and they either play really tough games against people, or they beat them. So...
Yeah, they're one of those tournament teams that just kind of pops up, and then next thing you know, they're in the Sweet 16. They have a good pedigree.
Yeah, they really do. So, I think they're a team that can actually surprise some people. What about you?
I think so. First round matchup against who they got?
They're Texas Tech.
Yeah, I could see Texas Tech slipping up.
Me too.
Texas, I could definitely see that as a potential upset right there.
And another team sitting right above them, actually, Marshall, Thundering Herd. They're another team that, I don't think they made as much noise lately, but they do have a pedigree. They've been to this tournament, a good amount. And they're another team that I can see making an upset. They come out of a pretty, the Conference USA is a pretty competitive conference.
Yeah. And West Virginia's an underrated basketball state, too.
It is. And you know what? And looking at it, this matchup's going to be fun because they're playing Wichita State. And Wichita State's another one of those small schools with really good NCAA pedigree. That's going to be a really fun battle. It might be one of the best first-round games.
Wichita State. I have had enough of Wichita State. we get it. You're the underdog. You're the shocker.
They're not anymore, though.
The third best team in K. Yeah, that's my point. You're not the underdogs anymore.
But they're still a small school that does a lot. They get a lot of good players from a small school.
Like, they're in Kansas. Like, get it.
Competing with Kansas State and University and Kansas. Like, come on.
They get their scraps. I'm not high on Wichita State. I'm just out of the fact that I'm just bored with it, man. Like, we need a new Wichita State. We need St. Bonaventure to become Wichita State.
St. Bonnie's or even Stephen F. Austin. Even Stephen F. They could do it. We're going to move on to 12, Murray State. Murray State, I don't see them doing much. I think they made the tournament. Happy they made the tournament, but I think that's basically what they're going to get out of it.
Yeah, they got a tough matchup. West Virginia's a tough 5 seed there.
Bob Huggins does a great job every single year. I think, I don't think it's him. And I'm happy that that West Virginia has been smart enough to not fire this guy.
Yeah.
Because his teams are always well coached. His defense, he preaches such a great defense. And they always come ready to play. I don't know. I think they're gonna eventually have enough with him because his recruits aren't panning out the way they should be. But man, I think he just does a great job there.
I think so too. I'm a big Huggins guy. Again, the whole West Virginia thing, I'm all in on that. Especially with Javon Carter, even though he looks like he's 35.
He might be.
A father himself. Like he's probably the oldest looking guy in the tournament. He's this year's.
Greg Oden.
No, the guy from Kansas who was there for 30 years. You know that dude?
Oh yeah,
he graduated 2 years ago.
He was definitely a graduate student for 8 years.
Yeah. He's that guy. He might even be better than that guy. We don't have a name for him, but
he might be. We're gonna call him that guy. That's his name. That guy. And because that's how significant he ended up being for the rest of his career.
He got a pro tryout. I mean, what could you ask for?
I mean, if you come out of a major college, you get a pro tryout. Doesn't mean you're any good.
That's also true.
All right, so
Perry
we talk.
Ellis. His name's Perry Ellis. That's who he is.
There he is. Yeah. So we're gonna move on. Number 11. We already talked about the Bonnies a little bit. St. Bonaventure. I think they're definitely a dark horse come out of this bracket. They have a play-in game, which is friggin' ridiculous. That's sitting at the 11 seed. They have a play-in game against UCLA, which is a really tough play-in game because even though UCLA hasn't had a great year, they still come out of the Pac-12. They get major recruits. They have much more money than St. Bonaventure does. I think St. Bonaventure comes out of this one because I think they're the better team overall. What do you think about this matchup?
I also think St. Bonaventure is the better team. I think again UCLA is very talented. They have a lot of young guys though. I'm always going to lean towards experience. St. Bonaventure's been there. They were in tournament last year, I believe, too. So they've got a lot of moxie, and plus Adrian Wojnarowski is a St. Bonnie alum, so they got the scoops. If they can't win the game, at least they have Woj.
They got the Woj bombs on their side.
They'll be watching.
Absolutely. And, so we exhausted a little bit about those two. We're going to talk about number 10, Butler, which I think Butler is actually pretty damn low. I think that, that might be another team that you might be tired of because they've been around. And
I never hear about Butler as much as I hear about Wichita State.
And, and you'll look at it, they're 20-13 overall. They went 9-9, but they went 9-9 in the Big East. And let's talk about who the Big East has. We talked about Creighton. I'm not as high on Creighton, even though they're also Big East. But on top of that, the top three teams are Seton Hall, Nova, and Xavier. Holy crap. And it's like, so, yeah, Big East is, people talk about the fall of the Big East. That's only in football. In basketball, I still think they're the toughest conference in the nation.
They're not as tough as the ACC. They're nowhere near as tough as the ACC.
Nowhere near. I put Xavier, Nova, and Seton Hall up against any three schools in the ACC.
Okay, what pro prospects have come out of any of those schools?
We're not talking about pro prospects. We're talking about college championships. And in college championships...
Let's line it up then, dude. Besides Nova's one win in the last 20 years. The ACC's better, Quest. We're not having this argument. You know I'm right.
We don't have to have this argument. Well, the ACC cheats more often. We just saw the people that they had on that. So come on now. And here's the thing. The guys at Villanova, the guys at Xavier, guys at Seton Hall have to go to class. Therein lies the difference.
But
they got to go to class.
Because they're all going to get real jobs. So I don't fault them. But yeah, I think that's a tough conference to be in. I think
I can't wait until everyone has to go to class. Until when everyone has to go to class, everything's going to even out because I want to say about 75% of these major college basketball players aren't going to be there. They're going to be in Europe.
Well, my favorite was Ben Simmons. He released his GPA after the season was over. After he was declared for the draft, he was getting straight D's. So he should have been ineligible.
Well, honestly,
they kind of finessed it.
Dude, it's LSU. They're like the DeVry University of major universities. Come on.
Yeah.
They have
not the highest academic standard.
Don't get me wrong. They have some great programs there, but you have to be genius level to get into those programs. All the lower academia, the liberal arts stuff. Come on now.
It's petroleum and engineering program.
Yeah, like I said,
it's going to be petroleum engineer.
Their higher education stuff, like any other college, is difficult. Besides that, who cares?
And their sports have been lacking lately, man.
And you know what?
LSU should be a good basketball team. They have a decent pedigree, but man, they haven't done jack lines.
Hey, and they can't.
I can't remember.
They can't blame it on Bama being better than them because, well, even though Bama is better than them this year, they still can't blame it on anything else besides themselves. And that transitions us right into number 9 with Bama, which I actually think they're pretty properly placed. But I think that they have a firecracker in Colin Sexton that can light it up any night, take over a game, and really lead them into a deep run out of the 9th seed. They're going to play the number 8 team, Virginia Tech, who is a tough matchup against them. Who do you see coming out of Bama Tech?
That, to me, is the most interesting matchup in the tournament. Or the first round, at least, just because I love both of these teams. Because you look at some of the teams that kind of shock people. They're either good at defense, which Bama's pretty good on defense, or they have a great firecracker point guard. And Colin Sexton is that kind of guy. He's an exciting guy to watch. He's a great prospect. He's going to be a top lottery pick. But Tech is just a really complete team. I watched them beat UVA. I watched them beat Duke this year. And they just have athletes. And they have good coaching. They're just a solid all-around team.
But are they consistent enough? There's a reason why they were 8 seed and they weren't up there with, UVA. They weren't up there with the Dukies.
Because, but they're more battle tested. They're in the ACC. Alabama's in the SEC. Just for that alone, I know Bama did upset a few teams. They beat Auburn. I would say Tech wins that. It's a tough one to pick, I think, but I would have Tech going.
Now, in terms of, there goes one of two ways, I think, with the battle testing. Because for me, the battle testing helps in terms of pressure, but the fact that they play in the ACC and literally the worst teams are the best teams in mid-major, so they're putting up fights. all the time, that could really wear a team down as well. So
That's true.
sometimes, and we're a guy like Sexton who just got to go off in the SEC against guys who they were athletic, but obviously not the ACC level. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I think that the battle testing against some of these lower level schools, like Vatek isn't there with the higher level ACC schools in terms of, talent and depth. So where some of these higher level schools, they have the depth where if their other guys are tired, they can rely on that bench. Vatek isn't there. So that's where I think sometimes the battle testing is a little bit iffy in terms of some of these schools.
Yeah, but I just look at their ability to get up for big games. They've beaten Duke, they've beaten Clemson, they beat Virginia. And, I know they lost to Notre Dame, which is not a good loss, especially in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, but Notre Dame's not a bad school. Notre Dame has just been really inconsistent.
Yeah, that's true. And they lost to Miami by a point on last Saturday. So, they haven't been as consistent as I'd like them to be, but just the fact that they can get up for those big games, I would just for that fact alone. And the fact that, freaking Virginia Tech hasn't been good at basketball for so long, and I'm probably, as a native Virginian, more excited to see them in the tournament than anything else. And the fact that Bama's had enough athletic success this year, I would give Tech the nod.
So we're
This is
gonna.
all personal, by the way.
Yeah, this is Sports Opinions Podcast. It's all about being personal.
That's true. Personal and politically correct, right?
Held up. I'm gonna go on a hot take, and I'm gonna say right now, Colin Sexton is gonna be the better pro prospect than Trae Young, flat out.
I think that's correct.
Because if you look at it, Trae Young was such a firecracker. And then once teams started to game plan for him, his numbers they're not pedestrian. They're still good. The kid's talented. He's going to be a good pro. But they slowed down a lot. Where Colin Sexton has been game planned for. People knew what to expect from this kid. And he's done it. He's led an Alabama team. He's led Avery Johnson, who has relied on him so much. And yes, that Avery Johnson is there. The one with the screechy, loud voice who was a hell of a backup point guard in the NBA.
I freaking love Avery Johnson.
I can't,
Avery Johnson.
I'm very sad that he went back to coaching because I loved hearing him do the commentary. He's such an excitable dude.
For the Young versus Sexton argument, I would say Sexton just in the fact that he's a freaking gamer. You saw him play 3-on-5 that one game when half his team got thrown out for getting off the bench, which is the stupidest rule in all of sports. That if you leave the bench, you're suspended for a game or you're suspended from that game or whatever. That's so dumb. But anyway, he led that team back when he was playing 3 versus 5, literally down 2 teammates. You saw him play the other night where he dropped 31 on Auburn, I believe.
Isn't he averaging 30 points? Didn't he average 30 points for the SEC tournament or something insane like that?
He's a freaking dog. He gets up for these big games. He's a competitor. He's built. He's a real strong kid. Trae Young's still kind of wiry. You don't know how he's going to fill out.
And if you look at people make the Steph Curry to Trae Young comparisons, I'm going to go Russell Westbrook to Colin Sexton. Really where that hacker-slasher mentality.
Yeah, I think the Trae Young-Steph Curry comparison is not fair just in the sense that Steph Curry was a freaking killer. He was there in big games.
Steph Curry also played, not to be unfair, but Steph Curry also played in Davidson, which was a much weaker conference, especially than it is now. And
look at his tournament numbers against legit schools.
Agreed. But Trae Young played in a tougher division.
Yeah.
Better athletes.
Better team, though. He's on a better team.
I don't know. How good is Oklahoma?
No slouch.
I don't know how good Oklahoma is. Honestly, outside of Trae Young, I really don't they obviously have athletes, but
they were better than Steph Curry's Davidson's teams.
Probably. I could definitely that's something I can definitely agree to. But
so I completely agree. I think Colin Sexton is defense, athleticism, just the dog mentality that I think gets overlooked too much in this whole AAU, we're all best friends NBA kind of environment.
I hate that environment.
Westbrook, and that just go after each other and aren't friends with the whole world and compete. He kind of looks like that type of player.
Speaking of things that would make you sick about that AAU mentality, I was watching ESPN for some reason. It just stays on my TV because Fox Sports 1 has yet to produce a good highlight show that's on consistently. But
yeah, and you want to get Josie on those ESPN wavelengths so she becomes a star athlete.
No, I want another sports network to produce a good highlight show that runs consistently, so I don't have to watch Sports Center. But I was watching it, and they had this little aside, like they do their little stupid stories and interviews, and it was LeBron James and Kevin Durant driving around in like an Escalade with Carrie Champion. And it's like, and I'm looking at it, and they're talking, and, LeBron throws in, like, oh, the All-Star games, the two best there. Like, whatever. He's right. They are the two best. But I'm looking at it going, would Michael and Isaiah Thomas have been caught dead in the same vehicle during the season?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if it's the All-Star break. Like, they would have been friends on the court, but after that, it's back to cutting your throat.
It's one of those things where I think people like to think that makes them... I can't stand it. As someone who, like, in high school did not want to talk to anyone else before a race or before a game. Or, you got to go out there and you got to push yourself. And if someone's, getting in your head with, oh, we're all buddies, we're all out here to make each other better. No, you're there to make your teammates better. You're not there to pony up to, Kevin Durant or anything like that. Kevin Durant's trying to kill you at the end of the day. And so,
yeah, and, I agree with it. And I agree. Like, pre-race, I had no problem giving like people high fives on track and like good luck.
I didn't even laugh. I thought it was so dumb. I always hated that part too.
I did that, but once that was done, the moment my toe hit the line, I quickly put an elbow in someone's chest as I would. You know what I mean? Like, and in football too. Like football, you go up there, the captain's handshake because you have to do it. After that, I didn't care what happened to you afterwards. My goal was to beat you and get you out of the game legally. Period.
Well, one of the cool things about football, especially college football, you still have those Ohio State, Michigan fights. You still have the regional hate, and I think it kind of still stems from AAU is like each other in high school. You might even play on the same team. If you look at like what NBA players played with each other,
it's crazy.
It's actually crazy. It's more than you think. But for college football, like. These guys don't have AAU. They have camps, sure.
Yeah, but listen, in high school, I went to...
You're competing for scholarships. You're competing for...
Hell yeah. And I went to camps, and it was like, you were there, and like, you got to know the guys. You became friendly with them, but you were trying to outdo them in every single second in camp because there were scouts there. There were other coaches there. And you were trying to show off and show that I'm going to kick your ass up and down this season all year. Yeah, and if you're not in my conference or my division, look for my name because I'm going to have better stats than you. Like, it was that bottom line right there.
Yeah, that's why I like college football overall. That just because you still have that, like Baker Mayfield planting the flag on the O at Ohio State, and
the nasty streaks. They're there. The nastiness is there, and I think that's part of sports.
It's fantastic, yeah. And even the NFL kind of deludes it because so many of those guys play together in college. If you're,
I mean, in certain
lining up against some guy from Ohio State, you're buddies with them.
In certain areas, because I think you can only do it like linebackers, linemen don't care. They're there to beat the hell out of each other. They could literally honestly it could be like brother versus brother. They're gonna try and kick each other's ass because that's just that position. So I think you find that more in the skill players. But I think skill players are always like that in football. They're prima donnas. They're kind of babies.
Yeah, it's a crazy mentality though. That's why like 20 times too, like. You don't see it as much in college because I think it's more of a rigid thing for college basketball, where it's still more of a team game than an individual game as opposed to like the NBA or something like that. But,
yeah.
It's exciting to see. There's still a lot of regional pride, is what I'm trying to say, and this is a fun time of the year.
Absolutely. So we're gonna move on. Our next team, the 9th seed Arkansas. No, 7th seed Arkansas. I just saw an A. In the 9. And, they've had, actually, I'm looking up and down their schedule. They've had some good wins. They beat Oklahoma. They beat Tennessee, which is a really good win, beating Tennessee. They beat Mississippi. They beat Georgia. They have some really good wins. Okay, State.
Yeah.
So I really think that they're a formidable team. I think they're one of those teams that's formidable, but I don't think they're going to make any noise. Like, they beat Auburn. They beat Bama. Like, they have ability. But I can't see them making too much noise past the first, maybe getting past around the 32. They're playing, they're going to be playing Butler, which is an upstart team out of a tough conference. So, Arkansas is a little bit of a weird team to me. What do you think with Arkansas?
To me, it's like they've thrived in the SEC. Like you said, beating Tennessee, beating Auburn. But I see a lot of blowouts. They lost to Florida by 15. They lost to Houston. I'm not even really high on Houston by like 25. Another big loss to UNC, like I said. I mean, yeah, they beat Oklahoma, but I like revisionist history on Oklahoma is not too kind. Lost to Kentucky by 15. So I'm not very high on this Arkansas team.
Yeah, it's a real lack of consistency. And sitting right above them is a team you mentioned that blew them out in their conference, Florida, which they have not been the same since they lost Billy Donovan. And I really can't get behind any Florida team. They have some good wins, but it's really nothing to call home about. They're not a team that I think has a real chance in this tournament at all.
Yeah, I haven't been too on Florida since really 2013 when they had that one team that won the SEC, I believe, and really gave Kentucky a run for their money. Yeah, I'm not too big on Florida either. And especially the SEC. I'm not a big SEC basketball guy right now.
And they definitely and they cooled down since early in the year. They had an early win against Gonzaga, which is awesome. An early win against Cincinnati, another really good win.
Yeah,
Since then, they've had wins, but they haven't played anyone. They lost to Mississippi, which I think is a bad loss. Lost to South Carolina, another bad loss. So it's like they lost to Georgia. It's a bad loss for them. Bama beat them. Colin Sexton, led a team to beat them by 18. They did a second loss to Georgia on the schedule. Like Vanderbilt beat them. Like they had a real tough go. So, I honestly think that they're a little bit high. I think they got a lot of praises for their early wins. But they definitely have cooled off, and it seems like other teams have really figured them out. So I think that they're probably much higher than they should be. Their first-round matchup's going to be against either St. Bonnie or UCLA. If it's St. Bonnie, goodbye, Florida. I think that they're just going to kick their ass. So not too much on Florida, so we're going to move on from them. A team that we both like. We both like West Virginia. We talked about them already.
I'm all in on West Virginia.
I think West Virginia's good. They have Murray State to start off. I think they could beat Murray State. And who would they have after? If they beat Murray State.
Wichita State or Marshall, which would be fantastic. If it was Marshall, West Virginia, that would be a fantastic game.
That'll be
in the sense that they're both West Virginia teams, but
be a great game.
They kind of have a cush setup going here. They beat Murray State. They would play either Wichita State or Marshall. I can't stand Wichita State, so West Virginia would beat them just on that fact alone. and then they're getting either Villanova, Tech, or Virginia Tech, or Alabama. And so you want to look at all the other 5 seeds. That's probably the easiest road to an Elite Eight or a Final Four for a 5 seed.
It definitely is, and and I think Nova definitely the class of this group. Without a doubt.
For sure.
But, you'd say it, a team like Alabama, when you have a star in basketball, we saw Carmelo Anthony lead a pretty mediocre Syracuse team to a championship because he's Carmelo Anthony. That was many years ago, but a superstar can do that. If Colin Sexton turns it on and has a Kemba Walker-like, type of tournament, when he had for UConn, like it was just unbelievable. Yeah. He can lead. He can will a team. So there's a lot, but they definitely have probably one of the better routes as a 5. But there's still some players. And moving on to a team you hate, Wichita State. I don't get all the hate. I don't understand all the hate for them.
Yeah, well, I've heard the narrative over and over again. For the last how long? It's been 10 years since they kind of popped up. It's just getting old.
But you know what, though? What else can you do? They've done the right things. They got themselves into a tougher conference. They're in the AAC.
They're a fantastic program.
Yeah, they're in the AAC.
They're doing everything great.
Their non-conference schedule is pretty damn good. They beat California. They beat Marquette. They lost by 1 to Notre Dame. They beat Baylor. Like, they've done some really, really good things.
No, completely. I'm just tired of it. I just want to see them lose.
So you
sports opinions, right? There's no logic behind it. I just don't like them.
He just doesn't like Wichita State. I have no problem with Wichita State. I think they're the type of team. Yeah, you know what? They really shouldn't have that chip on their shoulder. They're here. Everyone knows who they are. But they're going to play with that chip on their shoulder. That's just what they do. They go there. Was it?
I like Greg Marshall, though. I'm a big Greg Marshall. He went to my older brother's alma mater, Randolph-Macon. Shout out Richmond, Virginia. Shout out Joe Siegel. His birthday's coming up.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, 25.
Speaking of birthday, what are you doing for the festivities? Let the people know.
We will be at the first round in Charlotte. I forgot to mention that earlier. Forgive me. But we'll be there for the Virginia UMBC game, which should be a total sleeper. But who knows? Maybe the Creighton Kansas State game will show out. I'm really hoping for some fireworks. I was actually kind of mad. I was watching bracketology leading up to the unveiling of the tournament, and they had Alabama versus Creighton 8-9 in the South predictions. And I was going to be so hyped to see Colin Sexton play against Creighton. And then we got Kansas State. So I was kind of bummed out about that. But, you get to watch history made regardless. Maybe UVA will slip up in the 116 matchup. Well, the 116 upset will finally happen, but I doubt it. I'll be probably tweeting something about the game if you want to follow me. I don't know what or if it'll be relevant. But I'm excited to see Charlotte. Great city. Might live there one day. Kind of high on my big board of potential moving cities, low cost of living, and, being in the God-fearing South. And North Carolina's a great state and whatnot. But yeah, pumped to do that for his birthday. Then going back to Richmond to get housed on the 17th, which is of course St. Patrick's Day.
There you
go.
go.
Day of his 25th. So it's gonna be a fun weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. So we're after that old soiree from Josh. We're gonna move on. Go to number 3 in the bracket. Texas Tech. They finished second in the Big 12. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong.
They are a good team.
They're a good team. Are they a 3 seed good? I don't know. The Big 12, I don't think they've been as good as they have historically.
They've been ranked kind of high this season.
They have. They're number 14 overall. They have, it's like I'm looking at their schedule right now. What is their signature win? They beat Kansas. I guess that's their signature win.
Yeah, I'd say that'd be it.
But it's like,
I think it's the fact that they're a pretty solid team in a really hard, really tough division. Big 12 was pretty cutthroat this year, so maybe that's it. They played pretty good defense, from what I understand. They finished second in standings in the Big 12.
I guess they beat a lot of cream puffs for me. I'm looking at their schedule. Most of the big games, besides Kansas, they've lost most of their big games. They lost to Seton Hall. That was a big early test. They beat Kansas early, like I said, but they lose to Oklahoma middle of the season. They did beat West Virginia, but they lose to Texas.
Not a good away team either.
Lose to Texas, yeah.
17-1 at home and 4-6 away.
Exactly, and the conference tournament's all neutral site, so that doesn't really bode well for them.
Yeah, so I'm not too high on them either. Because every game I've seen them play this year, it seems like they're losing. Just in that sense alone. But.
Exactly. And another team, moving on to number 2, another team I'm not too high on, you might be. Purdue. Because really why I'm not too high on them, the Big Ten kind of sucks this year. There's not many good teams coming out of the Big Ten. Michigan State's Michigan State. Tom Izzo's a great coach. He has Bridges there. He's one of the top players in the nation. They're going to be good. Ohio State has just been good for a while now. But you look at the Big Ten, Michigan crawled up and won the conference because they are that upside down. They're that weak of a conference. And not to take anything away from Michigan. They've been playing good basketball, especially over the last 2 years. They're the hottest team in the conference, coming off of 9 wins in a row. But, Purdue at one point was ranked the number 1 team in the nation, which I don't think they ever deserved. But they really have underwhelmed all year. Do you like Purdue at all?
Not really. I think they're probably the weakest 2 seed in the tournament. I just don't like the way they play. They got kind of a...
They let Rutgers hang around in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. That says everything you need to know.
Yeah. And so you're telling me, if you were really an elite 2 seed, I don't think you lose to that Michigan team. I think Michigan's a really good team. I think that Michigan can do some damage in this tournament. But... yeah, not very high on Purdue.
And, you look at their signature win, I'm guessing it's probably against Arizona. Arizona, they beat them, but it was early. Was it back in
Way early. That was
back in November.
Since 3.5 months ago.
Since then, they beat Michigan, who, just rose up lately because of their big win. They have 2 wins against Michigan. I'm not going to count...
They beat Butler by 15, but that was almost 3 months ago. So.
Almost 3 months ago. They almost lose to Rutgers late in the year, 78-76. That's embarrassing. And then 2 straight games. They have 3 straight losses to Ohio State, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. So, I'm not Purdue. Yeah, they're definitely the weakest number 2 seed. This could be our 15-2 upset. I know nothing about California State Fullerton, which makes it even
That's what I
better.
was thinking too. Yeah.
And I hope that they do pull it off because, sorry, Purdue Boilermakers, you guys are weak.
And facial hair update: Cal State Fullerton does not have anyone with a beard.
Damn it! So they're definitely not going to get that upset.
So who knows? But yeah, I think basketball is just such a streaky sport in general. And so if I were to pick a team to kind of like make that run, it'd be a team that's kind of coming on hot lately. And Purdue's not. This doesn't seem like that kind of squad.
No, not
like
at all.
you said earlier, a lot of their big wins came early in the year, 2, 3, 4 months ago almost. So yeah, not too high on Purdue.
No, not at all. So we're going on now the number 1 seed, Nova, who seems to be there 1 or 2 every year. They play some of the tougher schedules. They have one of the best coaches in the nation in Jay Wright. Coming off of did they win the championship 2 years ago? Last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
They beat North Carolina 2 years ago, and North Carolina won last year.
Yeah, and overall, they're a pretty damn consistent team. They
have a deep squad. They have a real deep squad.
Looking at their schedule, they beat Tennessee early. They beat Gonzaga early. They beat Butler. Took Marquette. Beat Xavier, which is a huge matchup because Xavier's a really good school. Beat the team that ended up winning the conference, Providence. And just looking at their conference games, like they beat Seton Hall. They've just pretty much handled the conference in one of the tougher conferences in the nation. Like you've said, they're battle tested. And this is one of the teams where I think battle tested helps because of their depth.
Yeah.
So
that, and they have battle tested depth. They have a really, really great. There's some talent. They have a guy who might be a lottery pick in Mikal Bridges. Jalen Brunson's in the National Player of the Year conversation. Jay Wright's a great coach. So that's I definitely see them handling their business early, especially in this bracket. This bracket doesn't seem too tough to me, aside from like a 5 seed like West Virginia being ranked a little low in my eyes. You kind of got a lot of cupcakes, especially kind of towards the back half. So I think Villanova will handle, especially in this part of the bracket.
Absolutely. And, their toughest challenge is going to come from the top part of the bracket. Because if you look at it, they should get past their first round. They either see Virginia Tech or Alabama, which definitely winnable games. Winnable games. And then they have a chance, I think, at seeing either West Virginia or Wichita State. And, again, 2 teams. West Virginia, if they smother them defensively, they can keep it close. Wichita, I really don't see beating them. So right there, they have a pretty easy path to the Elite 8. And then on the bottom half, who's going to challenge them? Florida, Purdue. So I think that they have a pretty easy path to the Final Four out of all the 1 seeds. I think their path may be one of the easier ones.
That, and if they do get that matchup with West Virginia, which is the one they'd probably dread early on in Sweet 16, I think they're built to beat a team like West Virginia. They got all the shooters, they got all the talent, they got all the depth to break the press and cut through that tough defense.
Exactly. So that was the East region. We're going to move on down to the Midwest region. Start again like I do from the bottom up. Pride of the Ivy League, UPenn beating Harvard in the Ivy League championship.
Shout out to Kyle Huebner.
Shout out to Kyle over there. He was probably going nuts, even though I don't think he really cares about basketball.
He probably didn't even know it happened, to be honest.
Probably not. He was
like, "Hey, Kyle, congrats on UPenn." He'd be like, "I already graduated. What are you talking about?" And he'd be like, "No, they won. They won the tournament." And he'd be like, "What tournament?" NCAA tournament. I'd be like, "No, Ivy League." He'd be like, "Why are you texting me?"
Yeah,
it would take him days to text back because he doesn't check his phone.
He's too busy curing some sort of incurable disease because that kid's an absolute genius.
Yeah, he is. We'll be working for him one day. But,
we can only be so lucky.
And handsome. He's a great-looking guy.
He is. He's a stud. Absolute stud.
Yeah.
But that's all you get when guys are like, he's originally a Marist guy, so it tells you all you need to know.
We had him for a hot minute.
We did. Hell of a runner, too, if anyone needs to know. No one cares about that, but he was.
No one cares. No one cares about running.
No one cares. No one cares about running. But, so, UPenn, really not much to say. They might have a good pro that comes out of it because the Ivy Leagues always have some decent pros that pop out of nowhere. But in terms of the tournament, they're going to be playing Kansas. Kansas is coming off hot at their tournament win. They're going to roll. They're going to roll over Penn. going up to our MAC representative, the Iona Gales, for the third time in a row.
Speaking of running, sorry, Iona, you got to play Duke now. Good luck.
Yeah, you guys have anyone that can even touch a piece of hair on Marvin Bagley? I don't think so. But you do have this. You're going to get a technical from Grayson Allen. So there's that. He's going to trip one of your guys. That's almost undoubtable.
Those kids probably talk a lot of smack, so we'll see. Maybe they'll get us that.
So, speaking of the MAC, I don't know if you remember, but there was, a while back, Manhattan was the team to beat in the MAC. They were
Great
really
defense, yeah.
They were great. Them, Ryder, Iona, Siena, they would really battle it out. Since I forget the coach's name in Manhattan, but there was a scandal that went on, and it was right fresh off of Manhattan made their tournament appearance. I think they won their first game. Great coach. There was a big thing that went on. He got removed. Since then, Manhattan hasn't been the same, and I feel like that's paved the way for Iona. And they've really taken the MAC by the balls.
They have. Plus, they've had a lot of recent talent. I think they had a guy, was Alex something English, who was an NBA guy.
He was a stud. He hasn't panned out, but he was such a prospect.
Yeah, so they've had a good recent. I mean, recruiting-wise, they're right there. Them and Manhattan are both right there. New Rochelle's right north of the city where Iona's located, and Manhattan's right in there too. And so they have all the New York kids to pick from. So it's not surprising that they win the MAC every year. You'd like to see some variance.
Speaking of New York, what the hell is Marist doing? Like, unfortunately, me and you are on opposite sides of this, but Marist College, they just fired their head coach, Mike Maker, which has, a ripple effect, which we're not going to talk about here. But they just let him go. I think they should have given him a little more time. You think he should be out. He should have been out. But
I just think you got to win games, man.
My problem is,
he started my freshman year.
Who the hell is going to come in here? Who's going to come in and change our culture of Marist?
I don't know. He's got to be out there somewhere in the ether. I think that he was a great guy, a great coach, obviously. But when you go 27-98, some changes got to be made, especially if Marist is going to peg themselves as a basketball school. That's our sport. And that was my whole college experience with basketball. He was there when I started. His first year was my first year. And I never got to see a winning team. And for whatever reason, as an alum, it's like you count now an alum. And as a student at the time, it's like, as a basketball coach, you'd like to see them get their guys in there. But how many D1 coaches actually get 4 years of 20% winning percentage?
Yeah, but how many coaches actually had to have their students hold a GPA above a 2.5?
I think more than you know.
I doubt it highly. Yeah, but I also think those schools are in the same situation as Marist.
Yeah, but at the end of the day...
unless you're Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, Stanford, which also gets these supreme athletes plus great academia.
Yeah.
Duke is also there, probably.
At the end of the day, you got to win games. That's all I got to say. Is I don't want to get too touchy on the controversy. Some people are pretty heated about it. But, you win 20% of your games, you're going to get fired. I'm sorry. You're going to get fired, especially in a state like you're in New York. We see prospects come out of the Hudson Valley all the time. You see prospects coming out of the city. It's the basketball mecca of the world. You got to recruit those guys. You got to get some of those guys to come in. You're not going to get the kids that are going to Syracuse or Seton Hall or even freaking Iona for that point. But you're telling me that you can't get something?
I don't know.
You can't piece something together. You can't have a spark. There was no spark in my 4 years. I'm sorry.
So I'm hoping a few years from now, number one, this podcast will still be alive. Hopefully make it some money. Anyone want to come sponsor me? Please sponsor Sports Opinions Podcast because I would love to have one. Would love to have one. But hopefully this is still going on, and me and you can have this conversation, be doing the same exact show that we're doing right now, and we'll be talking about Marist in a tournament, hopefully.
And hopefully Mike Maker is doing well somewhere, because he's a great guy.
He really is. He's a fantastic guy, and, I don't know. I think he deserved a little more because he was preaching the right thing. I know he's a great basketball mind, and I think that if he would have had a few more years, he might have made something happen. That's just me.
Where was the spark? That's just where was the spark? Didn't see it.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna go on to number 14, Bucknell, the Bucknell Bison. Great track meet that goes on there. We love that meet. We're gonna stop talking about track again because we love to talk about track here. But the Bucknell Bison, they're a fun story. Every year, I think, every few years they come into the tournament. They're a fun story to be had. Ultimately, they're playing Michigan State. Ultimately, they're gonna lose. That's really all it comes down to.
They drew probably the toughest draw of 14 because that top end of the Midwest is ridiculous. Kansas, Duke, Michigan State, that's the top 1, 2, 3.
Auburn, Clemson, TCU, Rhode Island, Seton Hall. That is the toughest top 8 out of any region, period.
Yeah, and NC State's no slouch either. I've seen them play some really tough games this year. So, yeah.
So on that note, let's just kind of speed through these next few because they kind of don't care. I don't care about them. Be quite honest.
Yeah.
College of Charleston, they have no shot.
Great city, number 1 city in the world to live in, apparently.
Fantastic, but they have no shot in terms of college basketball. New Mexico State, the Aggies, another team. They had a great run. They won their conference. Not really going to matter.
Yeah, I feel bad for the state of New Mexico, too, because like the whole opioids thing is awful there.
They need a pro team in something. New Mexico needs a pro team. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. New Mexico's kind of one of those states that, like, if you're from New Mexico and you like are good at sports, you just don't get recruited because you're from New Mexico.
Like,
I read a thing on that.
I'm pitching this like Albuquerque Armadillos. Make it happen. That's a great team name.
You know the best pro prospect ever to come out of New Mexico? Best pro football player ever to come out of New Mexico?
Who is it?
Take a wild guess. Landry Jones.
Landry Jones played from New Mexico?
He's from New Mexico. That's all you need to know about New Mexico.
Oh, boy. So we're going to move on quickly. Yeah. Number 11, the play-in game. Probably one of the dumbest teams to get into the tournament, with also the team at number 10. We'll talk about that. Why the hell is Syracuse in the tournament?
I have no... the alumni base is fantastic. They're going to show out. It's the money grab.
There's 2 money grabs coming right up. But Syracuse finished 8-10 in their conference, 20-13 overall. They finished underneath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 schools in their own conference. Are you kidding me? You're telling me the ACC is that strong that you need to include the 11th ranked team in that conference?
The thing that's funny, though, is you know that Boeheim is going to weasel his way into, like, the Sweet 16 somehow. You know, he's going to game the system with that dumb zone, his lack of talent to, like, finesse his way into beating some of these teams somehow.
Well,
that's just going to piss me off.
They couldn't have had a better matchup because Arizona State is just as weak. They're coming out of a Pac-12. The only reason that they're in there is because they come from the Pac-12. The only thing you could say is...
How far have they fallen to, man?
Oh, my
Arizona
God.
State was a top-ranked team at one point.
But you know what, though? I will say this. Herm Edwards is the head coach of Arizona State football. I'm a fan.
Well,
that's awesome.
The last guy the Jets were relevant with, so...
Hey, Rex, come on now. 2 AFC championship games.
True.
Stop it. Stop it.
That was a hot take.
It was a hot take. So, out of Syracuse, Arizona State, I think Syracuse wins, like you said, that suffocating defense. But they have no chance in the second round because they're going to be playing the 8th seed, and we'll talk about them when we get to them. So, moving right on, the next team that this is probably... No, they're going to be playing... Who are they going to be playing? The 6th seed. They'll probably lose to that. Anyway, the biggest money grab in the tournament, right here, sitting at number 10, Oklahoma, Trae Young, the most undeserving school in the whole entire tournament, is sitting right there. Why are they here? Why are they in the tournament?
Yeah, ESPN made that happen. Do you see, like, ESPN during his games would literally have a stat tracker for him?
They finished second to last in the Big 12, Josh. Second to last. They were 8-10 in the conference, 18-13 overall. That's not a resume. They were 2-9 in away games.
Yeah, that's just unexcusable. He's entertaining. Don't get me wrong, and I'm a fan of like his character, and he's a fun player to watch when he's clicking. But they're really hoping he has like some Steph Curry magic.
Is this like the NCAA's way of like saying like, oh crap, we didn't include Ben Simmons in when he was at LSU, and that really hurt him. So let's do it for Trae Young. Like. That's kind of what it seems like to me, because Ben Simmons got a lot of crap for not leading LSU to a tournament game.
Well, it's
So
also curious that they put them in, the hardest bracket too.
hardest bracket, but they also put him in the 10 seed, but they also gave him a team that is gonna probably whoop their ass from the 7 seed in Rhode Island. I think Rhode Island's gonna run them over. I don't care what Trae Young does.
Tough, man. Rhode Island's real tough.
If Trae Young doesn't score 70 points, Rhode Island's gonna win.
It's not even like Oklahoma came on strong lately either. It's like
they've been bad.
Dropped the ball.
They've been bad, like flat out. Like, let's take a look at their schedule because they started off well. Like, don't get me wrong, they played really well early, but they had a good win against Oregon. They beat USC. They beat Wichita. Those were all awesome. They played really well. They lost to West Virginia, which I can't blame them. Huggins has a good group over there. But, they lose to OK State. They lose to Kansas State. They lose to Bama.
Kansas, but that was a month and a half ago.
They lose to Bama. They lose to Texas. Virginia State comes back and beats them. Iowa State, who's having a down year. Cyclones are a basketball school, but they're having a down year in terms of them. Lose to them. Lose to Texas Tech. Lose to Texas. This is all late. Lose to Kansas. It's like, they had the Big 12 tournament. They lose to OK State right away. Blown out by. This is not a good basketball. Yeah, Baylor destroyed them late in the year. This is not a good basketball team. They are not a NCAA tournament basketball team. It's kind of embarrassing for the NCAA. Not gonna lie.
2-9 away games. That's not a team that gets it done in the tournament.
It's embarrassing that they're included. And it's embarrassing that they're a 10 seed. They should really be like. The selection committee should be ashamed of themselves for both Syracuse and Oklahoma. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But moving on to teams that, actually play basketball this year. Number 9, NC State. You said the Wolfpack is a good team.
I freaking love them. I'm all in. They have a gritty white point guard, and gritty white point guards get it done. They have a pretty good center. Your 7's pretty talented guy. Good wings. Dorian, I think his name is. He's a real talented guy. Torn Dorn, he's real talented. I think they're a pretty solid team. That's another great 8-9 matchup with Seton Hall.
Yeah, it's unfortunate they run into Seton Hall. To be quite honest, they're a really good team. Seton Hall's depth is too much. I really don't think that they're gonna be able to beat. Kadeem Carrington is the absolute truth. He's a really, really good player. I think he can be like an all-tournament player when he finishes up this tournament. Shout out to one of Manchester Township, my school native, Shavar Reynolds. He's a freshman walk-on on the team.
Cool.
Really cool for him. He gets to experience this, but he's playing for an unbelievable team. He has a great chance to be inside there, but I think Seton Hall is really just going to take it to NC State. I don't think NC State has seen a team as deep as Seton Hall.
NC State beat Duke, though, so
they did. Something. They did, but Duke is also young, and Grayson Allen's up and down.
And UNC, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. They have wins. They played well, but I just think Seton Hall is just an overall better team. I think Seton Hall being an 8 seed is kind of laughable.
Yeah.
In this region, this region's going to beat the hell out of itself, and it's whoever comes out of this region is going to be very interesting. But
for sure.
They're going to beat the hell out of themselves. I really like Seton Hall. I think Seton Hall wins that matchup. I'm going to move on to number 7, Rhode Island. I hope Rhode Island beats Oklahoma by 45. I just think I think Rhode Island, they're a solid mid-major. I think we're one of the best mid-majors in the whole nation. I think they're going to show it. Even though they lost their conference tournament, I still think they're fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. All in on that.
Completely. I think Rhode Island's going to show up, and I think that they're going to play well, and they're going to represent all the small schools in the Northeast very well. TCU. TCU is an interesting one, sitting at the 6th seed.
They are. I don't know too much about TCU. They've had some pretty solid wins. They're just one of those teams that doesn't really impress me too much. They do kind of have a favorable first-round draw, though, against either Arizona State or Syracuse, just in the sense that, they don't have to do the play-in game. But I don't know. It's kind of just one of those, I'll watch the game, whoever they play, that 6-11 matchup, and just be like, well, this is a toss-up for me. I've never really watched TCU this year.
Yeah, they're not like TCU is just a decent basketball team. They're well put together. They've lost to the teams that they're supposed to lose to. They've beaten the teams they were supposed to beat. That's really their year.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to be said about that. Nothing wrong with that. Do they? They beat either Arizona. Again, if Syracuse gets in, that smothering defense, like you said, might weasel their way in and might really put a chokehold on a TCU. But
Yeah.
TCU, I think that they could be a first round out. They really, I think
Yeah,
they're
I
one
think
of the,
so, too.
they're a team that could be a first round out.
Yeah, I agree. Just kind of just vanilla.
Yeah. Like I said, you look at their schedule. They beat the teams they were supposed to. They lost the teams that they should have lost to. The higher ranked, the better teams, and that's kind of where they sat. A 6 seed is probably right where they belong.
Yeah, 3-7 away. Doesn't really fire me up.
No, not at all. Moving on, Clemson, interesting squad.
Yeah.
They can make a lot of noise coming out of that 5 seed. They play New Mexico State. I feel like they should get past them pretty easily. But they're a team that, they're a forgotten team in the ACC.
Yeah, very much so.
Forgotten team. There's a lot of notoriety. There's the Duke. There's UNC, Virginia being number 1 seed. But Clemson is a really, really well put together group.
They're a gritty basketball team. They play pretty good defense. Got great athletes. Yeah, I think they have a really great matchup first round, second round too. So it'll just be an interesting it'll be interesting to see how they match up against Auburn should they beat New Mexico State. But yeah, I agree. It's another team that's ACC above average. They should handle the first few rounds as well.
Absolutely. And they beat a lot of ranked opponents this year. They did get embarrassed by Virginia 61-36, which was absolutely embarrassing,
Yeah.
but they beat UNC at home after losing to them away. They've played they played some good basketball. I think their bad loss late in the year was their loss to Syracuse. And I think that's the win that sprung Syracuse into the tournament. Was that win against Clemson.
Yeah, for sure.
So you look at it, I think Clemson, they're an athletic team. If they play consistent basketball, they can make some noise.
Yeah.
Now, moving into the big dogs of the region, number 4, Auburn. They have an easy first-round matchup in the College of Charleston. I think they're going to walk over them. They are the class. I think they're better than Kentucky. I think they're the class of the SEC. They played the best basketball out of that conference so far.
Terrible. They got Colin Sexton. That's just a bad matchup for anyone.
Yes.
In a tournament game, sucks for them. But yeah, they're much better than that 18-point loss to Alabama for sure.
Absolutely, they're a lot better, and I think a 4 seed is a real good spot for them. I think getting past College of Charleston is pretty much a foregone conclusion. And I also, you look at it, who else do they have? They have College of Charleston. Next, they'll either play Clemson or New Mexico State. If them versus Clemson really is going to be a great game.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's unfortunate that might be as far as Auburn goes because I think Clemson has more talent than Auburn. But I really can see that being a battle. But I think Auburn is a good team. I think they're in a good spot being the number 4 seed. But, it's all about the top 3 in this group. And
kind of fires me if you got some football schools going out here, Clemson and Auburn. If they played each other twice, I believe, this year in football. And so to see them into the tournament will be exciting again.
Absolutely. And, it's all about the top 3 here, though. Michigan State, Duke, Kansas, 3 perennial powers. 3 schools that are known for being basketball. Tom Izzo, Coach K. Is Self still the coach over at Kansas? Yeah, right?
He is.
Bill Self.
Bill Self.
So, 3 of the most legendary coaches, 3 of the best coaches in college basketball. Out of the 3, Kansas is definitely the strongest. I think Duke has a really good team. I think Coach K's great. I think Marvin Bagley's fantastic. But we've seen those lulls with Duke this year. They're not your traditional Coach K Duke.
Yeah. Well, I think thankfully for these top 3 seeds, there's really, I would say that virtually zero chance of upset, just because I've really seen no reason that Penn, Iona, or Bucknell would beat either of these teams. I think Kansas is, like you said, by and large, the best team in this bracket, just in the sense that, Devontae Graham's the beast. They have experience with, Azubuike's been there forever. Spy Mikhailiuk is a beast. I've picked Kansas 9 straight years if I picked them this year, and so I don't think they're. I think they got kind of a tough draw in this bracket, but it's just another one of those teams where it's like they've let me down so much. They've broken my heart so many times, yet I keep going back like a dog that's been kicked too many times. I keep going back because they still feed me. They feed me little nuggets of hope every year. I always just think they're the best team for whatever reason. And so, you know what? I'm going to probably end up picking them again.
It's that great logo.
Right.
It's that Jayhawk. That Jayhawk is just such a clown-looking logo. It's great.
That reference to the Civil War. Their colors are great. Allen Fieldhouse is great. Devontae Graham is great. Great story. His mom had him when she was 16. He's got the blowout hair. He's a real great athlete. He's a good, wholesome guy. He's from Raleigh. Duke, not too high on their experience like before when you were talking about. Marvin Bagley, though, is the one guy in this tournament, if I had to pick, the one guy to like just get you a bucket, feed him in the post. He's just the guy that puts the ball in the basket. Love the intangibles. Got a pretty solid mid-range. Even a little bit of a 3-game there. But I don't know. If Grayson Allen, their leadership falters, then will the rest of the team go with it? They certainly have the talent to go deep. But like we've said before, Coach K teams lately, they have kind of a propensity to slip up early. So who knows, especially in this tough bracket. And then Michigan State, I think, is a low-key like dog team. You know, Jaren Jackson's a top 3 pick apparently. Kind of one of those do-it-all centers. Miles Bridges is playing out of position, but still kind of a beast. Great athlete, averaging like 16, 5, and 3 or something like that. So kind of a production guy. Good guard play, good defense. Tom Izzo's a brute too. So this is one of those squads where it's like, would anyone be surprised to see Michigan State in the Final Four? I don't think so, especially with this talent. And they're pretty experienced too. So they got a good blend of youth, experience, talent. One of those teams that you definitely expect to see late in the tournament.
Everything you said is completely true. I literally agree with everything you said, top to bottom. Kansas, by and large, probably the best team in this bracket, but this is the bracket from hell. So a stumble is definitely possible in this bracket because from number 9, and even if Trae Young gets hot, if a Boeheim defense really smothers from 11 up, there's real basketball teams in this conference. So It's a really, really tough. Kansas could slip. Duke, again, they have a guy like Bagley who is just a stud, all-around good player. Grayson Allen, as long as he's not tripping people or looking like he's about to cry hysterically, because he has one of the poutiest faces I've ever seen in my life. As long as he has his head on straight, he's a great leader. He's a great overall basketball player. His IQ is off the charts.
Their X factor for me is it's either going to be if Duval if he's healthy and he's on his game, Duke will go far. So watch out for their point guard number 1. Trevon Duval is a really talented guy,
and he's looked good as of late.
Yeah, and he's got motivation, man. He wants to play himself into that lottery. He wants those Colin Sexton talks. So we'll see.
But again, this might be one of the rare first times I've ever seen a Tom Izzo team treating themselves as an underdog, because they definitely have that underdog feel to them. Normally, when it comes tournament time, you can hear every commentator, every single talking head mention Michigan State in Final Four. It just happens. This year, you're not hearing that really at all. They got the 3 seed, deservedly so. They're a really good team, but everyone's just kind of like, Michigan State, they're good, but. And that's all they hear. So this is the first time I think you're going to see like a Tom Izzo team with a chip on their shoulder. And like you said, wouldn't be surprised if they're in the Final Four. Shout out to one of my boys, my former boss, actually, at Anderson Center for Autism, Kyle Royce. Big time Michigan State fan. Shout out to him. But, yeah.
If there was one team I would not want – if I was a fan of, say – if I was a Duke fan and it was us versus Michigan State in the Elite Eight, there's no team I would not want to face tied game with 2 minutes left. Like Michigan State is a nightmare just with the talent. Jaren Jackson is a complete center. Miles Bridges is a dog. He puts the ball in the basket. He's kind of like Carmelo Anthony Light, just the same body type, kind of like a pudgy small forward who can score and get to the basket. Like I would not want to play that team ISO at all. That's a squad right there.
And Honestly, if the more I'm looking at the bracket, Michigan State is probably the team that I'm picking to come out of this. Because when I look at it,
And I can't fault you for that. Yeah.
and you look at their path on the top, they got to beat Bucknell, which I think they're going to beat. I really think Syracuse has a good chance at beating TCU, and what a matchup would be Boeheim versus Izzo right in the round of 32. Like that's a dream, and I really think that's the reason why NCAA set it up this way because they're hoping Syracuse makes it because that's a moneymaker that round. Then
For sure.
if they win there, they're more than likely going to see Duke. They can get past Duke, like we said, and you see it. They have a lot of good players on Michigan State. They're playing really good ball. They have the talent at the positions to match up against Duke, and they have a little more.
Just as much talent.
And they have a little more leadership. They're a little more seasoned in terms of players. So
if there's one matchup in this whole freaking tournament that I'd love to see, it'd be Duke Michigan State, just because like the matchups and the talent would be off the charts.
Yeah, and that right there, that elite, and that right there, that's not even the Elite Eight. That would be the Sweet 16 matchup.
Yeah, which is we'd like to see it a little later. But that's still pretty sweet.
Yeah, well, we could potentially see Syracuse, Michigan State, Izzo versus Boeheim in the round of 32, and then in the Sweet 16, Izzo versus Krzyzewski. Like, this is really the bracket of death. Like, no doubt, the bracket of death.
For sure.
So we're gonna slide into our last bracket, even though that one was a lot of fun to talk about.
That was a lot of fun.
Last bracket, we're gonna talk about the West region. First, right off the bat, number 16 is a playing game. North Carolina Central versus Texas Southern. Can't say I know much about either of them. I'd be lying if I told you anything about either of them. Can't say that either of them are gonna get past Xavier. So do I care? Do you care?
Absolutely not.
All right, yeah. Sorry to both of those franchises. Both of those schools. You guys don't matter. Congrats on getting to the tournament. You don't matter.
It's more than our alma mater can say.
No, very much more in years. Anyway, number 15, Lipscomb. I think that's how you say their name. I didn't even know this friggin' school existed.
It's in Tennessee, big evangelical school. They beat Florida Gulf Coast after Florida Gulf Coast almost completed the biggest comeback in Division I history. In the tournament championship, so I don't think they're anything to note.
No, and Florida Gulf Coast was nice with the flashy dunks and everything. Like, honestly, Lipscomb, why didn't you let them finish the comeback?
It'd be a lot more fun talking about them, for sure.
So much more fun. And also, this is really a note for me. They play in the Atlantic Sun. The Atlantic Sun has NJIT in it, New Jersey Institute of Technology, who was literally the worst team in college basketball a few years back. They were 14-16 this year, finished 7-7 in conference. Kudos to you, NJIT, for playing decent basketball. Kudos, you've come a long way.
New Jersey, yeah.
Hey, listen, they're probably better than Rutgers at this point, and that's supposed to be our big Big Ten school, blah, blah, blah. What the hell are they doing? They're another one.
Rutgers is New Jersey's school, baby. That's what they advertise it as.
And it's ridiculous, because they're another one. We talked about Marist. They don't recruit the pipeline. You are New York, New Jersey. Rutgers is New York, New Jersey's shining light. Because Syracuse is Canada. I don't care what anybody says. Syracuse is out there. Rutgers is our school. And you're telling me that you can't keep New Jersey, New York talent home? Like, that's embarrassing. Especially now that you play in the Big Ten, you still can't keep that talent home? Like, come on.
The rest of the country treats New Jersey as like an imperial colony. They just use it for resources. No one stays in New Jersey.
It's insane because little trivia. A lot of people probably know this, but maybe a bunch of you don't. Who's one of the best point guards in the NBA right now? Kyrie Irving. What state did Kyrie Irving come from? New Jersey.
Yeah. Towns. The list goes on.
Oh yeah, and you look at it, and it's like if they could have gotten one of these unbelievably talented NBA guys to stay and go to Rutgers, the recruits that would pile in, and the friggin' tournament appearances, and oh my, I'm gonna get myself going. I am.
You sweating through the.
I'm just pissed. It's another that gets me pissed off that you're such a major school, and you with money and resources, and Monmouth is probably a bigger basketball school than you.
That's true.
Oh, my God. Moving on. Number 14, Montana. Great state of Montana. They're going to play Michigan. Really sorry, Montana.
Michigan's hot.
Oh, yeah.
Hottest team in the tournament right here. I don't see Montana beating them.
No, Montana. No, sorry. Number 13, University of North Carolina, Greensboro. They're redheaded stepsister to UNC. They're gonna play Gonzaga.
Playing Gonzaga, so many fundamentals, Gonzaga's got that.
The mid-major sweetheart since 1990 something. If you're tired of Wichita State, you got to be tired of Gonzaga.
Yeah, Gonzaga actually does stuff. Gonzaga's been in the Natty. I respect it. I was a big Adam Morrison fan growing up. Adam Morrison was like one of the only good white players. He was like the
God, he was awful in the NBA.
He was, but like for a kid who found out Jason Kidd wasn't actually white, like Adam Morrison was what I clung to for a few years.
Come on, JJ Redick? Are you kidding me? JJ Redick.
Yeah, but like Adam Morrison looked cool. He was more fun to play with.
Adam Morrison looked like a surfer boy.
I know, it was great. He has a fallout shelter now. Like they interviewed him. He uses NBA money to like buy a bunch of guns and live in a fallout shelter and like.
That's exactly what I imagined him being. Just a backwoods dude. He probably has no teeth because he had bought like Skull as a company.
I'll send you the article. He's got 2 daughters, not married, but doing his thing. You got a daughter, you can relate, kinda. Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, but I'm married, and I wasn't a basketball player, and I didn't have the creepiest molesting facial hair of all time that he did.
And you don't have a fallout shelter yet.
No, I don't.
It's coming.
But we're gonna continue. I'm done talking about Adam Morrison. Jesus Christmas. Number 12, South Dakota State. Another team.
Will beat Ohio State. I'm all in on this.
You what?
I think they're gonna beat Ohio State. I don't know what I'm saying.
Hot take. The 12-5 upset right here. You just heard it on Sports Opinions Podcast. Say it again.
The South Dakota State will beat Ohio State. It's just one of those. It's just gonna happen, Jackrabbits, South Dakota. Ohio State's feeling themselves a little too much. Ohio State's all like got this fake chip because they weren't ranked high in the preseason, but they know they're actually not that good. South Dakota State just beat South Dakota in the Summit League tournament, which is a pretty solid. Okay, that league kind of sucks, but anyway, it's a good team right here, man. South Dakota State, undefeated at home, 8-4 way, 11-game winning streak. They're hot, man. They're chomping at the bit for Ohio State.
What's their signature win?
Who cares, man? Throw that out the window. And that's all I've been talking about for the past hour and a half. But they only lost to Kansas by 34, so that's a signature. I'm telling you, man, I'm all in. They beat Iowa. Okay, they beat Iowa.
They did beat Buffalo. Buffalo's a tournament team.
Yeah. They beat Drake.
They beat Mississippi, which is, a terrible team, but they beat them.
Yeah.
They only lost to Wichita by 10. I'm not sold.
I'm telling you.
I'm not
sold. Okay, well, you're going to be left in the dust in my bracket.
I'm also noticing as I'm looking at these teams, Omaha, the University of Omaha, has the coolest O I've ever seen in my life as their logo.
That's a great logo.
It just looks like a badass clip art. It's a badass clip art O.
Kind of looks like a little 3D thing.
Yeah, it's like OU. Kudos, Omaha.
They should change it to it. Good for them.
Yeah, you win. You have the best O in college. Screw you, Ohio State.
And then the Mavericks. It's pretty cool.
So, after that, a hot take. We're going to move on to actually a team that I think is going to pull the upset. San Diego State. The Aztecs, they're going to beat Houston.
They're going to beat Houston. I'm not very high on Houston at all.
Yep, calling it right now. I don't know much about them. I did watch them play a little bit in the tournament. I think they play a pretty good brand of basketball. They move the ball pretty well. I think their defense leaves a little bit to be desired. But I really think that they can pull an upset here and they can play well.
For sure.
So this is an interesting team to me. Number 10, Providence, coming hot off their Big East championship.
I also think they beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M reminds me a lot of Florida State from last year. Just the long, athletic team with a lot of fringe they got one guy who might be a lottery pick, but they got a bunch of guys who are fringe pros.
So they're the team
defense.
They're the team you think can go far, but is going to disappoint you.
They're the team I would have picked last year to go far, like I did with Florida State, but that will let you down because they're only going to score 45 points in the game. So for that reason, I will pick Providence to beat Texas A&M.
I like it. Speaking of Florida State, they're sitting there at number 9. They play Mizzou.
Poor bastards. They
Yeah.
here. Michael Porter Jr. coming back. Jonte Porter, his brother's been playing well. They kind of faltered late against Georgia, but I think that was only because Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. was just kind of getting acclimated. I think you give him a week to get his confidence up like they are now. I don't know. He can get hot, man. He's a lottery guy. He's a future all-star. I think Michael Porter Jr. might get hot and beat Florida State.
I don't know, but Florida State returned a good amount of those lanky dudes. You don't think that their defense and their length is going to be a factor in slowing them down?
Leonard Hamilton's letting down way too much. So I don't know. I think that when you get like, I'm all in on Missouri. Like the fact that they're an 8 seed with a guy who could potentially be a top 3 pick is that just sucks for Florida State. I think Missouri beats them.
And I'm looking at it. Florida State hasn't been blown out all year, and I think that really goes to. And they have some good wins. They beat North Carolina. They have a tough loss to Louisville. They beat Syracuse. They beat Vatech. They beat Georgia Tech. Miami, they get a win against. They come back and beat Louisville. They only lose to Virginia by 4. Beat Clemson. Like they're an up and down team, but they're athletic as all hell.
Yeah, they are. But Michael Porter Jr., he's pretty good.
Michael Porter Jr. All right, so we just talked about Mizzou. Think Mizzou is gonna beat Florida State. I'm kind of on board. I'm a little biased. I'm a Florida State football fan, so I do root for their basketball, but definitely can see Mizzou. The Porters are pretty damn good. They really are.
Yeah, they are.
They're together when they're both gelling. They're really it's kind of good in a way that Missouri got the 8 seed because if he comes back and plays the way he's supposed to, they're gonna really outplay that 8 seed.
Yeah, for sure. Which really just stinks for the team seated higher up that they got that kind of draw with a guy like that coming back late.
Yeah, and if you look overall, Missouri is number 32 overall in like the whole ranking system. So They really are a team that I even think the committee, they just put them smack dab in the middle because they really didn't know what to expect. And in terms of resume, you got to put them there, but in terms of talent, it's going to be something, and that could be a big upset for our number 1 team. We'll get to them, but come the second round, they're going to play our number 1, and that could be a battle if they get past Florida State.
Yeah, for sure.
So we talked about A&M. A&M's a good school, but I don't think that they're going to stop the momentum of Providence. Providence comes from a better conference, a more battle-tested conference, a deeper conference, and I just think that they're overall the better team.
I will say the one thing I like about A&M, they have number 44, Robert Williams, is the next DeAndre Jordan. Guy can jump out of the gym. Really, really, really just great athlete, great rebounder. One of those guys that, probably not a college basketball player in the sense that his game's kind of restricted to just posting up and getting rebounds. And he's probably more of a run to the rim big man, which is going to suit well to the NBA, kind of like Bam Adebayo.
DeAndre Jordan, Dan Adebayo, even like Tyson Chandler, his style,
long arms. So if you're a pro fan, he's the guy to watch. But yeah, I don't see them beating Providence either.
All right, moving up, Houston. They're going to be playing San Diego State. I said this is my upset. Houston. I just think they're kind of like a TCU. I just think they're a pretty vanilla team. I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see any glaring flaws. Don't get me wrong. I think they're a decent team. But I also, there's a reason why Wichita and Cincinnati are sitting ahead of them in the AAC.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I said, they're a good team. Is there anything really wrong with them? No, but are they vulnerable? Absolutely. They're ranked number 21. They lost to a weak LSU team earlier this year. They don't really do much for me. So I think that they're very vulnerable. I think that they definitely lose, and they are an upset in this bracket. Do you have any strong emotions towards them?
Not at all. They're good. They're a decent football school. They're going to be on the up and coming next year, but yeah, nothing with basketball.
Here's your upset. Number 5, Ohio State. You said they're going to lose to South Dakota State. I think they're going to railroad South Dakota State.
Well, we can agree to disagree because I don't know why. I just think it's going to happen. I just think the Jackrabbits are probably confident because they won the Summit League, and the Summit League is kind of like the frostbitten vanilla ice cream that sit in your freezer where if you kind of put it in the microwave for like 10 seconds, it's like kind of decent. Like, it's not a bad sixth option for dessert. And those are the teams that really make a move in the tournament, the ones that, they believe in themselves. They know they're not the best conference. They know they're not coming from the flashiest school. But, screw it. Let's beat Ohio State kind of team.
I could see Ohio State struggling. I could see this being a wake-up call to them. But I also think that they're just going to kick their – like, athletically, they might hang. I just think that Ohio State's just much better athletically. They're much more physical, play a better brand of basketball, and they're just going to overall, just towards the end, they're going to pull away towards the end of this game.
That's true, and you might be right, but the Jackrabbits, though, you never know.
You just love them Jackrabbits.
I do. I'm all in on that.
Jesus. All right, now we're going to get into the big dogs, the meat and potatoes of this region, which honestly, you look at it, it's another weaker region. They really didn't put much into this West region besides these top four being really tough.
Yeah, it's a boring-ass region.
Yeah, this region, God, I really wish, what was that? The Midwest, was it? The Midwest should have been the last region we talked about. We didn't plan this well enough. We suck, Josh.
No, they didn't plan it well. They should have put this. They should have made this more evenly dispersed. Goodness gracious, this West region's rough.
Well, honestly, the West and the South region, I think, are pretty damn bleh. The East region's okay, but like the Midwest region is the one to watch. So if you're looking for a region to watch every Midwest game because those are going to be all explosive.
Yeah.
We're going to talk the Zags. There's really not much to say about Gonzaga. Every year, they play. Are they still in the WAC? I think they're still in the WAC, right?
They're still in the West Coast Conference. That's right.
Yeah, WCC. They're still there. Their only real competition normally is St. Mary's, who they faltered against BYU. Gonzaga's Gonzaga. They play in a weaker conference, but they are a absolutely legitimate team. There's a reason why they were 30-4. Why they really, they lost one game in the conference, but they just win. They play good basketball. They beat Ohio State, who we just talked about.
Yeah, they lost to, though.
Who?
Good old San Diego State.
They did lose to San Diego
State.
Jesus Christmas.
I'm telling you, that's 6'11 dangerous.
They did. But I'm just looking. They beat Gonzaga. They beat Creighton. They lost to Nova, but it wasn't. The score wasn't as lopsided as it looked. They have a lot of good wins. They took care, for the most part, of their conference. Gonzaga's Gonzaga. They're going to do what they do.
Yeah.
They're going to make a run. Well coached, very fundamental. They get UNC Greenbow. They're going to wipe the floor with them. They're going to move on. They're going to have a good tournament. They always do. A team that's ranked higher than them, but based solely off the fact they won their tournament again, Michigan. I think they're talented. I think they might be one of the weaker 3 seeds, though. Sorry, Colton, one of my buddies. He's a big Michigan fan. But you look at the other 3s. You got Tennessee, really good. Texas Tech's a good team. Michigan State's a good team. Michigan's there. Like, out of the 3s, they're the weakest.
Yeah. I actually am kind of high on Michigan, just in the sense that, they're hot. And I think they could do some damage in this bracket just because it's a weaker bracket. But I agree. You put them in any other bracket, say you put them in the East bracket, I don't think they make it out of the round, or at least the Sweet 16. It's one of those teams that got hot, won their tournament, and kind of got rewarded with a pretty weak region here. Yeah, they get the complete and total benefit, but you know what, though? They're going to run into my upset, San Diego State, in the second round. So there you go. There is the upset right there. But yeah, no, this bracket is terribly weak. Michigan, I think, is they came off, they had a great conference win, but the Big Ten's nothing to scoff at right now. No, they're a lot to scoff at, actually. They're a weak conference this year. They're completely down from what they were. So, yeah, Michigan gets the benefit of the doubt, but there's not much to them. North Carolina sitting at the number 2. They're solid 2 seed. I think they're getting hot at the right time. May, who I don't think much of, had a hell of a final game in that tournament. Yeah, I think that they're the team that makes it out of this bracket.
You think that they're better than Xavier?
I think that they're better than Xavier. I think they're more experienced. I mean, they've been there. The last 2 years, they went to the national championship. Joel Berry's a dog. They just have a lot of, like, they're probably the most experienced. They're definitely the most experienced team in the tournament. They have the talent, not great talent, but talent that wins games, especially close games. I've seen them pull it off time and time again. This group of guys, Luke May, Britt, Joel Berry. That's a solid core to have, and so I think they're the team that makes it out of the West.
Luke May just reminds me of like a bottle of pudding. Like he just looks like pudding running up and down the court.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I was saying this yesterday during the game. I can't tell if he's like a good-looking guy or not.
I can't tell if he's athletic or not.
Oh, he's definitely not athletic. Yeah, his Caucasian is all hell, but
I don't get it. I don't get how he's good at basketball.
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, I think they make a run.
And I do agree. Out of this group, my money's either on Gonzaga or North Carolina, to be quite honest. Take a look at our number one, Xavier. Xavier is talented as all hell. They're deep as all hell. They come from a great conference. They just always let you down. Always. They're that type of school, and certain groups, it's like any pro teams, school teams, they always have that. They know their history. When anyone tells you that they don't think about their history or know their history, they're lying. They know their history. They know they've had high expectations before. And they know that they've let everyone down before. So I can't trust them.
And it's kids that have been there before, so it's not like a new crop where it's like a one-and-done school. It's Xavier, I agree. I think that they're gonna win. They're gonna win some games in this thing, no doubt, because I think they have a pretty solid. Of course, they're the one seed, so they're gonna get out of the first round. But I don't know. You play Missouri. That's a tough matchup. I think they could beat Florida State pretty handedly. But once they hit the Jackrabbits in the Sweet 16, good night.
Predicting the Jackrabbits to the Sweet 16, Jesus.
I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. Upset City.
All right, so putting it on you. So we just finished up the regions. South region, who's their Final Four representative? So we're going back to the top.
All right. Just eyeballing the South. I think it's going to be. You want to just rapid fire the games real quick because I have my bracket all right here.
Well, I'm just saying who's coming out in general. Who's the best team?
I think UVA is. I think it'll be. I think one versus two in that bracket. Actually, 1 versus 2 in that bracket, but I think Arizona gives UVA a real hard time before UVA gets to play Cincinnati, just because Arizona's pissed off and they have the best player in college basketball.
So you pick UVA as that Final Four team out of the South region. I'm being a homer. I'm an Arizona fan. I'm thinking Arizona gets out of there. I think they beat Virginia. I think they beat Cincy, and I think they make it out of there. So you got Virginia. I got Zona. East region. Who you got as the winner of the East region overall?
East region, I guess I am kind of homering it with my picks because Virginia, and then I'm going to go West Virginia just because I love their defense. I think that press style sucks to play against, especially in the tournament where you're more apt to get battled. I think they upset Nova. I think they make it to the Final Four.
I'm going opposite. I'm thinking Nova's going to win. I think that they'll see I think good chance that I don't know who they see because I really don't like 2 through 5. Like I like West Virginia, but I think Nova is like leaps and bounds better in terms of talent and any other school. I think Bama actually has a shot at being a dark horse if we're going to look at an upset dark horse just because of Colin Sexton, because of how friggin' talented he is. And Avery Johnson's a hell of a coach. He's a legitimate coach. So, they'll take care of each other in the second round. We'll see what happens because Nova and Bama will see each other if they get there. But I'm picking Nova to come out of there. So you're picking West Virginia. Midwest region, the region of hell, region of death, whatever you want to call it. Jesus Christ, who do you pick?
My heart is telling me Kansas because I know if I don't pick them, that they're going to be the team that ends up freaking winning it all. This is the first year. It's the first time since Kansas won it all in 2008. I didn't pick them. I thought they were the best team. I didn't pick them. I made sure to pick them every year. But I'm going to upset myself. I'm going to go Michigan State. I just think they're deep. They're talented. They're the most complete team in the tournament, I think. Michigan State.
I'm going to agree. I'm saying Michigan State comes out. I think they're the best team in this bracket, which is a lot. a lot of really good teams in this bracket. It's really tough to look at Duke, Kansas, Auburn, Clemson, even Seton Hall coming up there and saying, like, no, a team's unequivocally better. But I think Michigan State goes through the gauntlet. I think they make it out of there. But I'm picking Seton Hall as my dark horse. They could do a lot of damage. They got a deep team. They're kind of pissed off because they faltered late. So I think Seton Hall definitely has a shot.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, West Region. Who do you got coming out of there?
I think South Dakota. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's going to be UNC. Just because they've been there, battle tested. They got a pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but, they beat Lipscomb easily, I think. I think they have a tough matchup against Providence that they eventually pull off. And I don't know, I think Michigan's luck just eventually runs out. So I'd say UNC gets out.
So here's my dark horse pick. Number 8, Missouri comes out of this bracket. It's a weak bracket. Porter Jr. puts up 20-plus a game, plays overall. He's back. His brother puts up at least 15-plus a game, plays really well. They lead Missouri into the Final Four because this bracket is pretty damn weak. And they make the run, and they're going to represent the West region.
That's a hot take.
So
I think I just don't. He went like 4 for 17 or whatever the other day. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to have a fantastic career. But that's asking a lot. That's asking a lot of a guy that hasn't played much basketball this year.
But he has a great warm-up game against Florida State. They're athletic. They're good. If he can get past Florida State, what do they got past number 8 there? Because honestly, I don't think that they have – like that region is a cream puff region. So if he can get a nice warm-up against Florida State, sky is the limit. Where's he at? Where are we at?
Right, but
so not Florida State. If they could take, they'll be right there against Xavier next round. They have the talent to get past Xavier. They get past Xavier, it's easy street.
I mean, they get past Xavier. Yeah, they might. They very well might, but I don't think UNC. I don't think Missouri beats UNC. Unless UNC gets upset by Michigan or somehow San Diego State beats them, then you're just asking for a lot of chips to fall in place. Missouri to beat.
Probably, but I gotta pick one.
You gotta roll the dice. Someone has to win.
So just for the record, for Josh, he has Virginia, West Virginia, Michigan State, and North Carolina for his Final Four. And I have Zona, Nova, Michigan State, and then I have Missouri for my Final Four. So there you go. It's on record. Anyone wants to go back and listen to this marathon? Because Jesus Christ, Josh, we're at almost 2 hours. This is a hell of a podcast.
Yeah, I'm freaking tired, dude.
But it's a special. This is what you do when it comes to specials. You marathon it.
That's true. You go for it.
But
We
yeah,
can actually probably come close to it. That's fine. It's actually not. It's 2 hours flat. Probably not.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot. But yeah. So obviously, what we just did, we did a special for the March Madness. We gave you our picks, our thoughts. Probably upset a few fan bases because you guys know it too. You don't matter in this tournament. But Josh, I want to thank you very much for coming on. We finally, now for the people that don't know, we actually recorded a full podcast like a month ago.
Yeah.
Mike's ended
Lost to the ether.
up getting screwed up. Couldn't hear him. I couldn't fix it. So then we attempt to coordinate to do another one. Things went wrong. Couldn't do it. This one's finally the one we're doing, and we got in the 2 that we failed in getting. Filled it up with 2 hours of nothingness.
There we go. 2 hours of complete nothing. It's a train to nowhere,
Complete and total, as someone wrote about one of my articles in the Twitter comments, hot garbage.
Hot garbage. That's exactly it.
Someone called one of my articles hot garbage. So we are going to dub this
Hot garbage.
the March Madness Hot Garbage Special.
That's fantastic.
All right, Josh.
It was fun.
It was. Tell the people where they can find you again.
I am at Josh Siegel on Twitter and at Josh Siegel 8 on Instagram.
And as always, I'm Alex Cuesta, Cuesta MBN on Twitter. And if you want to follow Sports Opinions, which you should go follow Sports Opinions, that's what you're listening to right now. It's at Sports Opinion 30. They're both on Twitter. Again, thank you for everyone for listening to this marathon. This was an NCAA March Madness special that we did. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope we probably offended one of your favorite teams if you're a small school. Even if you're a large school team, Duke, UNC, hope we offended you too. All right, then.
Losing in the round of 32, by the way.
Thank
You are right, yeah.
God. All right, then. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This was Sports Opinions Podcast, episode 14. We're out. Thank you.